Let me tell you something most people don't have the courage to say out loud. Being attractive has nothing to do with your cheekbones, your waistline, or the number of followers on your social media. The truth about attractive women, it goes deeper than makeup, fashion, or aesthetics. An attractive woman has presence. When she walks into a room, she doesn't need to speak loudly. She doesn't need to demand attention. She is attention. Her silence has weight. Her aura has authority. Why? Because she's built something within herself that can't be bought, imitated, or faked. She knows who she is. She's not trying to be everyone's favorite. She's not playing small to make others comfortable. She's not dressing up her self-worth in validation or begging for love dressed as attention. She doesn't compete. She doesn't chase. Because a woman who is truly attractive is too busy choosing herself every day. She carries standards like armor. You can't just enter her life and bring chaos. No, she has boundaries and she honors them. That's what makes her magnetic. She's not desperate to be liked because she actually likes herself. Do you understand the power of that? And no, she's not perfect. She's had her heartbreaks. She's cried herself to sleep. She's battled anxiety, self-doubt, loneliness, and betrayal. But she got up again and again. That strength, that resilience, it becomes part of her beauty because she didn't let her pain make her. An attractive woman is not passive. She's not afraid to walk away. She'll love you fiercely, but the moment you take her for granted, she'll remind you that she's not replaceable, she's unforgettable, and that's not arrogance. That's clarity. That's self-respect. You want to know why some women glow even when they're silent? It's because they have peace. They're not in emotional debt. They've forgiven people who never apologize. They've let go of what was never meant for them. And most importantly, they've stopped betraying themselves just to belong. She might be soft, but don't confuse her softness with weakness. That woman has been through storms you'll never see. And instead of becoming cold, she became kind. That's the kind of woman who turns heads without trying. Because her energy speaks before she does. Attraction. Everyone talks about it, everyone chases it, but very few people actually understand what it truly means. We live in a world obsessed with the surface. Social media feeds are curated with filters and angles. Beauty is packaged like a product, and worth is measured in likes and follows. But here's the reality no one wants to talk about. True attraction has nothing to do with physical appearance. A beautiful face might turn heads, but it's the energy behind that face, the essence of a woman, that holds real power. You see, a woman's strength is not in her lipstick, her hairstyle, or her outfit. It's in the way she carries herself when no one is watching. It's in how she speaks when she knows her worth. It's in the silence she chooses when she doesn't need to argue to prove a point. That's real attraction. That's what makes people stop and stare, even when she's not trying. It's not the noise she makes, it's the peace she walks in. A woman who is truly attractive doesn't need to announce her presence. She doesn't need to compete or compare. Why? Because she knows that comparison is the thief of joy and competition is for those still unsure of their value. She's already chosen herself. She doesn't walk into a room wondering who's looking at her. She walks in knowing who she is. That's strength, that's power, and that's what makes her captivating in ways beauty never can. The most magnetic women I've ever seen weren't the ones who had the perfect body or flawless skin. They were the ones who had survived storms and still chose to love. They were the ones who had faced betrayal, and instead of becoming bitter, they became better. They had depth in their eyes, fire in their souls. They had standards that didn't bend with pressure. And that kind of strength, it radiates. It commands respect without saying a word. What makes a woman attractive is not her ability to please the world, but her courage to please her soul. She doesn't wait for someone else to validate her. She validates herself. She knows she's enough. And that doesn't make her arrogant. It makes her aligned. She doesn't need a crown to feel like a queen. She wears her self-respect like a shield and her peace like a perfume. You can sense her power before she even opens her mouth. That's the kind of woman who doesn't need to prove anything. She just is. And the most beautiful part? She's not trying to impress anyone. She's not posting selfies for validation. She's not dimming her light so others can feel more comfortable. She's not dressing for attention. She's dressing for herself. She's not living for the highlight reel. She's living with intention. Every choice she makes is rooted in self-awareness. Every boundary she sets is a reflection of her self-love. And that energy, pure, powerful, unapologetic, is what makes her irresistible. A woman with inner strength doesn't just walk away from what doesn't serve her. She rises above it. She doesn't entertain disrespect. She doesn't explain her standards. She doesn't chase love because she is love. Her self-worth is not up for negotiation. And when she loves someone, she loves them with the same power she uses to love herself, intensely, honestly, and completely. But make no mistake, the moment you take her for granted, she'll leave. Not because she's heartless, but because she's whole. She's learnt the hard way that beauty fades, that trends change, and that superficial attention comes and goes. What doesn't fade is character. What doesn't change is how you make people feel. And the way she makes people feel, seen, heard, inspired, that's not something you can Photoshop. That's not something you can fake. That's the product of inner work, of healing, of years spent becoming the woman she was always meant to be. See, understand something most people miss. Attraction is energy. It's alignment, it's self-respect. You can have the most beautiful features, but if your energy is desperate, scattered, or insecure, people will feel it. You'll attract chaos because that's what your energy is calling in. But when you're rooted in yourself, when you've taken the time to heal, to grow, to evolve, your energy becomes calm, magnetic, and rare. And rare is always attractive. The truth is, anyone can be pretty. Anyone can wear the latest fashion, get their hair done, wear the right makeup. But not everyone can sit with their pain and rise above it. Not everyone can be soft in a hard world. Not everyone can remain kind when they've been hurt. That takes strength. That takes character. That takes a level of self-awareness that doesn't come from beauty salons or highlight reels. It comes from sitting alone, facing your shadows, and deciding to grow anyway. A woman who is truly attractive has done the work. She's not afraid of being alone because she enjoys her own company. She doesn't settle because she knows her worth isn't based on how someone else sees her. She doesn't play games. She communicates clearly. She expects honesty, and she walks away the moment her peace is threatened, not out of pride, but out of protection. Because her peace is sacred. And once you learn to protect your peace, your whole energy changes. That glow is not makeup, it's healing. She's a woman who can stand in a room full of noise and still hear her own voice. She doesn't follow trends, she follows truth. She's grounded, not because life was easy, but because she refused to stay broken. And every time life knocked her down, she rose stronger, wiser, and even more beautiful than before. That's real beauty. That's real attraction. It's not about perfection. It's about resilience, about depth, about authenticity. You want to know what really sets her apart? It's her standards. It's the way she chooses peace over drama, growth over comfort, truth over popularity. She's not for everyone, and she doesn't want to be. She's not interested in being desired by many. She's interested in being valued by one. And even if that one never comes, she's still whole, still radiant, still enough. She doesn't use her looks to manipulate. She uses her mind to elevate. She doesn't tear other women down, she lifts them up because she's not in competition with anyone. She's too focused on her purpose, too rooted in her lane. And that kind of woman, she's unforgettable. She leaves a mark, not because of her appearance, but because of her impact. True attraction begins the moment a woman decides to stop chasing people, attention, or validation and starts chasing purpose. It's in the way she wakes up every morning, not to impress, but to become. It's in how she treats people, how she holds space for others, how she speaks life even when she's tired. That's the kind of woman who doesn't just walk into a room. She shifts the atmosphere. She brings calm. She brings clarity. She brings presence. She's not afraid to take up space. She doesn't shrink to fit anyone's comfort zone. She owns her intelligence, her ambition, her softness, her sensuality, all of it. She's not too much. She's just enough for the right people. And she's not afraid to lose the wrong ones because she trusts the alignment of her life. She trusts her timing. She trusts. And no, true attraction isn't something you can buy, borrow, or build in a day. It's not something found in magazines or in social media. It's something that radiates from the inside out. It's built on choices, discipline, healing, self-love. And once a woman taps into that version of herself, she becomes unstoppable. Not loud, not dramatic, just unshakably herself. That's the kind of attraction that turns heads and keeps hearts. She doesn't chase, she chooses. That single line defines the difference between a woman who knows who she is and a woman who is still searching for herself in the eyes of others. There is a quiet kind of strength in a woman who refuses to chase anyone. Not love, not approval, not friendship, not opportunities that require her to shrink herself just to be seen. She stands still, she observes, and then she chooses. That is the essence of divine feminine energy. It's not passive, it's powerful. A woman who chooses understands the value of her presence. She knows that being available to everyone is a betrayal of her own spirit. So she doesn't rush, she doesn't beg, she doesn't plead for a seat at anyone's table. She builds her own. Because she knows that real connections don't need chasing. They flow, they align. And if they don't, she lets them go with grace. You will never see her desperate. Not because she hasn't felt heartbreak, not because she hasn't had moments of weakness, but because she has evolved through every wound. She has cried, doubted, even stumbled into places where she forgot her worth. But the difference is, she always came back to herself, stronger, clearer, wiser. She doesn't chase because she's learned the hard way that anything forced is fragile. Anything you have to beg for will eventually break you. So now, she doesn't chase love. She chooses peace. When a woman steps into her power, she becomes radically intentional. She no longer operates from a place of lack. She's not trying to fill a void. She's already done the inner work. She has sat with her loneliness. She has faced her childhood wounds. She's unpacked the reasons she used to cling to people who didn't respect her. And through that healing, she learned that she is not here to be chosen. She is here to choose. This woman doesn't fall for words. She watches actions. She doesn't chase after mixed signals. She chooses clarity. She doesn't keep trying to prove her worth to someone who's blind to it. She walks away. Because she understands something most people ignore. Time and energy are sacred currencies. And she refuses to spend them on anything that doesn't return that energy with intention and respect. She is not hard to love. She is just not easy to fool. There's a difference. She knows the cost of peace, and she won't let anyone come into her space and disturb the harmony she has built within. You can't manipulate her with fear. You can't guilt trip her into staying. You can't play the hot and cold game and expect her to participate. She has clarity, she has emotional maturity, and most importantly, she has options, because women who don't chase attract. Attraction is not about being available to everyone, it's about being magnetic to the right ones, and she has mastered that art, not by playing games, but by knowing her values so deeply that she simply has no interest in wasting time. She doesn't want shallow conversations. She doesn't want casual energy. She wants depth. She wants truth. She wants intentionality. And until she finds it, she's good on her own. That's what makes her powerful. She doesn't chase a title. She doesn't chase validation. She doesn't chase a man who doesn't show up for her. She doesn't chase friendships that feel one-sided. She doesn't chase trends just to feel relevant. She knows who she is. She doesn't need to run toward anything, because what's meant for her will always recognize her energy. The beauty of a woman he chooses is that she doesn't carry bitterness. She carries discernment. She's not closed off. She's just selective. She doesn't wear her pain as armor, but she does use it as wisdom. She's not going to let just anyone access her time, her body, or her spirit. And that's not being too much. That's called self-respect. She's seen what happens when she chases. She's seen herself lose sleep, lose confidence, lose her voice, all because she was trying to earn love from people who are not capable of giving it. And she promised herself never again will she abandon herself to feel chosen. Because the truth is, when a woman chooses herself first, everything else falls into place. There's a grace in the way she moves on. Not because she doesn't feel deeply, but because she honors her feelings without letting them control her. She allows herself to grieve, to process, to release. But she never lets pain become her identity. She learns, she grows, and she keeps choosing herself no matter who didn't. She doesn't beg for spaces where she's not celebrated. She doesn't explain herself to those committed to misunderstanding her. She doesn't try to water herself down to be more digestible. She is who she is, boldly, fully, unapologetically. And if someone can't see the light she carries, that's not her burden to fix. She knows her light isn't for everyone, and she's okay with that. She doesn't chase because she trusts. She trusts her energy. She trusts divine timing. She trusts that what is aligned with her purpose will naturally be drawn to her. She trusts that walking away from what doesn't serve her will always create space for what does. And that trust, that deep, unshakable faith in herself and her journey is what gives her that quiet, commanding power. She's not playing games. She's not calculating moves. She's not performing. She's just rooted, present, intentional, and in a world that tells women they have to try harder, look better, do more to be chosen. She's the one who chose herself and changed everything. There's nothing more powerful than a woman who no longer needs to be pursued because she's learned how to pursue herself, her dream, her peace, her truth, her goals. She doesn't wait to be seen, she sees herself. And in doing so, she becomes unforgettable because in the end, she doesn't chase, she chooses. No one saw what she battled behind the smile. No one knew the depth of betrayal she had to digest. They saw her laugh, but they didn't see the moments she stood in front of the mirror, trying to convince herself that she could survive one more day. They saw her strength, but they didn't see how many times she broke down on the bathroom floor, praying for peace, praying for answers, praying for some kind of meaning in all the pain. And the beauty of this woman isn't that she never fell apart, it's that she did, and she still chose to rebuild. She didn't pretend to be okay. She allowed herself to grieve. She gave herself permission to feel the rage, the sadness, the confusion. She didn't hide her pain in pretty packages. She sat in it. She held it. She let it speak. And through that process, she began to reclaim her voice. Her pain was once a prison. It made her question everything, her worth, her purpose, her ability to love and be loved. But eventually she stopped asking why things happened to her and started asking what they were teaching her. She realized life wasn't punishing her, it was preparing her for who she was meant to become, for the strength that would come when everything familiar had been stripped away and all she had left was the raw truth of who she was. She stopped looking for rescue. She stopped hoping someone else would fix what was broken inside her, because she realized no one could do that but her. Healing became her responsibility, and she didn't wait for closure from people who caused her pain. She created it for herself. She didn't need an apology to let go. She didn't need validation to rise. She became the hero of her own story. There's something sacred about the kind of woman who has been through hell and came back softer, not harder. That kind of resilience doesn't scream. It doesn't show off. It walks silently, but it shakes everything it touches. That woman doesn't carry the same insecurities anymore, because she knows she already survived what was meant to destroy her. She doesn't seek approval from the world. She approves of herself. That's her superpower. The same heartbreak that once made her question everything now fuels her boundaries. The same rejection that made her feel unworthy now sharpens her standards. The same abandonment that shattered her now anchors her in self-trust. Her pain was not the end of her. It was the awakening. The moment she stopped living to be understood and started living to understand herself. She knows what it's like to be silenced, to feel invisible, to love someone who couldn't love her back, to give more than she ever received. She knows what it's like to feel used, overlooked, underestimated. But those experiences didn't harden her. They refined her. They stripped away the illusions and revealed the truth. That she is her own home, her own healer, her own anchor. She stopped over-explaining, she stopped begging, she stopped trying to make people stay who were never meant to. She learned that letting go isn't weakness, it's wisdom. That walking away doesn't mean giving up, it means rising up. She stopped waiting for someone to choose her, because she already chose herself, and that choice, that sacred, powerful choice, changed everything. Now, she doesn't chase love, she embodies it. She doesn't seek validation, she validates her own existence. She doesn't fear being alone because she understands the strength in solitude. Her time alone taught her what no relationship ever could, that the love she kept trying to find outside was always waiting within. Her pain became her compass. It showed her what she would no longer tolerate. It taught her how to protect her peace. It awakened a deeper awareness of what truly matters. She no longer lives for attention. She lives for alignment. She's no longer driven by ego, but by purpose. The chaos that once defined her life no longer shakes her, because she has become rooted in truth, unshakable in spirit. She no longer looks at her past with shame. She looks at it with reverence, because every painful chapter carried a lesson. Every toxic cycle revealed a wound. Every mistake became a mirror, and now she doesn't hide those chapters. She owns them, because they're not signs of weakness. They're evidence of her becoming. This woman has learned to sit in silence with herself, to hold her own hand, to whisper affirmations in moments of darkness. She's learned to breathe through anxiety, to cry without shame, to rest without guilt. She doesn't wear her healing like a badge. She carries it quietly, but it glows through her in every decision she makes. People don't always understand her. They see the strength, but they don't know what built it. They see the peace, but they don't see the storm she had to calm inside herself. They see the confidence, but not the process of rebuilding her self-worth from the ground up. And she doesn't need them to, because she didn't heal to prove anything. She healed to be everything she once needed. She now attracts differently. She moves differently because her standards are rooted in experience. She no longer entertains potential. She looks for patterns. She no longer falls for charm. She watches character. She doesn't need attention from many. She desires connection with the right few. Her boundaries are not walls, they are bridges for the right kind of energy to enter. And yes, she still feels deeply. She still loves passionately, but she no longer pours from an empty cup. She's learned that her love is sacred and not everyone deserves access to it. She no longer gives to be loved. She gives because she is love. But she gives selectively now because she knows her value. Her pain taught her patience. It taught her to observe before she invests, to listen to her intuition, to honor her red flags, to wait for alignment instead of rushing for connection. She's not looking for someone to complete her. She's looking for someone to complement her growth. She's not ashamed of her past anymore. She's grateful for it because it forced her to meet the version of herself she once didn't know existed, the version that doesn't give up, the version that doesn't settle, the version that rises over and over no matter how many times life tries to break her. That's the version that lives in her now. Her pain became her story. Her story became her voice. Her voice became her strength. And her strength became her power.